And I haven't said this before, man. Like when people used to say, "Oh, well, Obama's ruined the country," I'd say, "Well, listen, you get the next one, and you fight where you can. And this is a bad law, but we have a system of checks and balances." This is the first time that I've feared some kind of like legitimate civil uprising or civil war, because I think civil wars don't exactly look like people think they look. If it's your neighborhood and people are taking it over like Chaz or Chop, but I'm going to keep calling it Chaz because I want them to face the legal liability of declaring an autonomous zone. Chaz, right? If it's your neighborhood, you're going home, or like my wife right now who has some health issues and I need to be helping her, and you walk home and there are some Antifa guys with masks trying to shake you down to go into your house, and you can't go in your house because we've taken this over. I go, "Oh, okay, let me get my wallet." Bang, 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 bang. Click, open the door, reload, bang, 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 bang. That's the end of it. Yeah. No one's stopping me from getting into my house to protect my wife. Does that make someone an extremist? I'm not talking about going out hunting people, of course not. But is it really so outlandish to think that when people are being controlled by unelected mobs in entire blocks with guns, that they end up taking back their rights as American citizens with guns? Well, they should move. No one has a right to force someone to move at gunpoint. And so we didn't do the event in D.C. I'll tell you why. I think that obviously we can't find our solutions through identifying through one's race. As a Christian, the only way we can solve our issues here is to stop looking at the color of one's skin, to stop looking at things that are superficial, and to start looking to God. And I think we do need to pray together. And I think it's really important, though, at this point for Christians to step up, and instead of trying to, where's the church? Where is the church? You have pastors right now who won't even host service in their own congregations, while billions of dollars in damage have been caused in cities. It was $25 million in the first week in Minneapolis, right? Yep. Does anyone have a total yet? What has been done across the country?
No, yeah.
You're trying to think Minneapolis, probably a little smaller than New York, times it by 8,000, somewhere in the billion range. And the church, their churches are doing Zooms? It's unreal to me. No one mentions if the virus uptick, and the death count hasn't gone up with it, so obviously some testing comes into account there. No one mentions, we blame congregations for choir practice, but not people screaming at other folks to kneel. And here's the thing, a lot of people are trying to accuse folks of being racist for not kneeling. Figuratively, I want our leaders, Republicans included, to stop kneeling, and literally, no American should kneel to another man. None. It's not a symbol of unity. It's a symbol of cowardice. You do not kneel. If you're a black man, you never kneel to another black man or a white man. If you're a white person, you don't kneel to, I have to list all the colors, otherwise people say I'm singing what? Red, white, yellow, taupe. Your guess is as good as mine with the Dolezals and Boltons and Michael Jacksons. I don't know. Include all the colors of the rainbow, and even ones that people will technically try and hang me on because they're not colors, they're shades. You don't bow to any human being. But we've lost sight of that because we have lost sight of what we are as a country. People say, "Oh, we had slavery." Well, you know what? Yeah, we did have slavery. And we fought a really bloody war to end slavery. We had hundreds of thousands of slaves in the United States. There are still 6 million slaves in Africa. There are still many, many millions of slaves in the Middle East. You know who else had slaves, by the way? Muhammad. Now, I know you'll say, "Oh, that was a different time," just like in the United States. Do they still have slaves in the Middle East today? Nary a slave to be found in Qatar. Clock boy with your Phillips and a suitcase. Tell me about the slave trade over there. But so we did end slavery. And the reason we ended slavery was because we knew that it was irreconcilable with the Constitution, with the Declaration of Independence, with the idea that all men are created equal. From the very beginning, if you look at the writings of George Washington and Jefferson, they all had a problem with it. It was changing a process, stopping a train that was in motion, a locomotive from a very, very long time before it. And we got there. And it's terrible that we did it. Understood? But that's also why we don't kneel. The reason we ended slavery is for the same reason that you don't kneel today. Because no Christian is to kneel to anyone, ever. Matter of fact, I know some people think, "Oh, in the Bible." You can read instances in the Bible, every instance you read where someone kneels to anyone other than God, including angels. And you go, "Oh, what are you doing?" I should have said, don't kneel to me. The big guy's going to see. Don't kneel to me. That's throughout the entire Bible. And we stand at the Pledge of Allegiance. Why? We stand to honor the flag of the country, the only country in human history that was founded on the promise that we would never have to kneel to a man again. And it took us a while to make sure that happened with everybody. to end the slave trade, but the idea of kneeling before a human being is deeply anti-Christian, just as it is deeply anti-American. And for someone to try and reappropriate something that, could you imagine if we just said, well, now I'm gonna bend over and I'm gonna bend down and face Mecca 5 times a day, and I'm gonna do it because I would like socialized healthcare. You can't just change something that's symbolic and what it means because you have a grievance, no matter how legitimate it is. Americans should not kneel. I don't respect a man who kneels to men, literally or figuratively. And it bothers me when you have Christians, well, we're going to kneel because it shows a sign of unity. That's not what it does, man. It shows a sign of subservience. And it shows a sign of subservience when you do it with Black Lives Matter. You can see these videos right now, entirely based on your race. That's as close to modern slavery in America as you get. Listen, you're white. Kneel. Well, why? Because white privilege. You're demanding that someone kneel to you in subservience as though you are a god because of their race? At the same time where we might sacrifice a man at the altar of political correctness with Officer Rolfe. That's what that is. That's not a man who deserves to die. He's facing the death penalty. We have gotten so far off the beam in this country, I couldn't care less if someone wants to throw out a false accusation of kneeling being a sign, just like this being a sign of white supremacy. Don't tell the Home Alone 2 DVD box set. And so we're at the point where, I don't necessarily agree with what, I do agree that this country needs healing, and the only way to heal is obviously through God and through our Christian principles, but I also think that there's a time where a shepherd needs to protect their flock. And Chaz is a great example, and this officer is a great example. We can save lives now, and we can liberate people. And that's the promise of this country, and it's being infringed upon, and it is unbelievable to me that those in leadership, Republican and Democrat, aren't protecting the very rights upon which this country was founded. I'm trying to see what we have for next week. I've changed my mind. I don't know. I don't care. You know what? Kneel if you want, stand if you want, I guess. That's the point. You have the right to do it. You have the right to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to kneel out of guilt, fine. Demanding that another man kneel is not just offensive as an American, because I don't want to, be like Gerald and murder. It's not just offensive to the American sensibilities. And by the way, if you're an edgy atheist in the comment section, that's totally fine. You enjoy the unalienable birthrights as protected by government, given by God. That's something a lot of people miss too, right? The same reason that we don't kneel is because we recognize in this country that our rights are given to the only person to whom we kneel, which is God. The government doesn't grant rights. And that's something that's really pretty, people think is benign. In Germany, just recently, they made internet a human right. Ooh, well, that sounds nice. I like internet. Sprint sucks. Got it. But what happens if the government is the one who tells you, oh, internet is a right? We're just granting rights? I guess we can take it away. And you see that with sheriffs or mayors across this country. Well, we're going to take away their right to defend themselves. You can just take away? You can just give and take away rights? I'm not telling you that you can't ever kneel. Let's be clear about that. What I am telling you is that you should never be called to kneel before any other man because of what the Constitution promises. Black, white, red, yellow. And that doesn't exist in other countries. It doesn't exist in the continent of Africa, where you still have enslavement based on race, by the way, between tribes, where it still exists in the Middle East, where it still exists in Asia, based on where you're from. Slavery is still a thing. And people do kneel. And it's not a symbol of unity. It's because they're forced to. If you kneel, put on some shackles while you're at it. And if you're a leader who kneels, don't expect the vote of myself, and I can't speak for everyone here, but I'm pretty sure that you can expect to forego the vote of anyone here at Louder with Crowder. We'll see you next week, and kneel if you want. I just think you're a pussy.